Everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vontz from the Choose the Hard Way podcast, the Always the Hard Way newsletter. We have not spoken since Milan San Remo last week. Still, I'm out on the group rides. I'm out amongst the community, Andrew, and people are buzzing about it. I've never seen a race have this much impact. Very cool. I think, as you said in the moment, if Pogačar wins this race after crashing, it's the best race of all time. I think it's one of the best races I've ever seen. Little tiny mishap here. We're recording. We're probably going to talk a lot about San Remo. Mathieu Vanderpool is riding off the front of E3 currently while we're watching this. We'll have Gent-Wevelgem coming up on Sunday. We have, guess what? Remco Evenepoel getting dropped on climbs at Catalunya while Jonas Vingegaard rides away. We got a lot going on. But what's new with you? What do you want to talk about in this sacred space today?
Yeah, well, first of all, Spencer, it's great to be here with you. And it's good to see mainstream media finally catching up to some of the takes that have been going down here on Beyond the Peloton for the past 3+ years. I think hundreds of episodes at this point amongst us. We have long been champions of Milan San Remo as the best race of the entire year. And I'm seeing a lot of headlines now testifying to this fact. So congratulations, everyone, for catching up to the breakaway. Welcome. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And for everybody who's listening, please follow my podcast, Choose the Hard Way. You can find it everywhere you listen and watch. And my Substack, Always the Hard Way. You can find a link to that in Spencer's newsletter, which I read every time that it drops. And Spencer, something else I wanted to share. As I'm watching this season unfold and I'm consuming a lot of content from these World Tour teams, I know they don't have the biggest budgets. I do, however, feel like they could be making a much better use of those budgets in the communications domain. So if you're running a World Tour team and you want to actually be effective at getting your message out in the right channels, I'd like to talk to you about your strategy and how you and your writers can be more effective in unscripted conversations. That's the work I do through my consultancy, One Real Voice. And every time I'm consuming another cookie cutter copy paste video, or Spencer, I want to talk about this today, seeing Primoz Roglic, to me, one of the most intriguing figures in professional sport, let alone professional cycling, just being under leveraged as a brand awareness and just like a general asset for the Bora Hansgrohe Red Bull team. I want to help you do better. There's just a lot being left on the table here.
It's actually a real pain point that you're catching on to. I've spoken to multiple teams that are kind of, I don't want to talk out of school, but they have highly paid communications departments who are pretty conservative, pretty, as you might say, cookie cutter. And I think it's hard for them to make a decision like, do we do something a little more risque? That's why you see smaller teams like the Rockets coming out with interesting stuff because they don't have professionals getting in the way. But it's funny you say that about Roglic. I kind of forgot he's a very good. He's just content. The man is content. I kind of always forget he's on that team.
I
they
forgot
don't
he was
leverage
on
him in
that
any
team
way.
until I saw that amazing interview this week. I don't know where Jamie will have you post the clip. But yeah, that clip of him, he's getting interviewed and the interviewer says, "Hey, do you know that you won the race when it finished here on top of this climb?" And he said, "Which climb? Which race?"
What?
The guy's forgotten more wins than most riders will have in an entire career. He's phenomenal. And I feel like I'm watching Obi-Wan Kenobi talk every time Primoz gets in front of a camera. It's kind of staggering.
It is, yeah. He's incredible. I mean, this podcast is not today in Red Bull marketing, but it's funny that they do Red Bull is known for its marketing. It is in some ways a media company that has a side business where they sell sugar water at an insane markup and make a lot of money. But the cycling team, even I oftentimes forget Remco Evenepoel is not on Citadel Quickstep. It's just he happens to be racing in a different jersey and doesn't feel that different. But
everybody's talking about Milan San Remo, best race of the year. You finally get all the hitters in one place. It's what we would like to see in cycling 4.0 or perhaps 4.1. Finally getting the best riders at the best races 100% of the time. I know people are going to be asking, though, Spencer, there's always the whataboutism. What about Jonas? And we know Pog is never coming back.
Jonas Vingegaard?
Right? Yeah.
Has he ever top 10 to one-day race?
We didn't have technically all of the best riders there now that Jonas is on a trajectory to absolutely smash and win the Tour de France.
Yeah, I think it is safe to say Jonas is pencil him in for the Tour win. I got in some public issues last week praising Jonas Vingegaard. I had no comment on that man. But it's been a minute since the race happened, but we are watching the race together, but separate, not in the same place.
As we always do. Yes. We're always together, united by our souls.
But one of us was not us in this group, but someone that we know was too cool for school. They went off with the cool kids to do a bike ride, did not watch the race live, which to me, a little wild, since I think San Remo is the best race of the year to watch live because it's building in the last 30K. They're going into the Cipressa. Pogačar crashes, and we're texting as this happens. You're like, oh my God, can't believe this happened. What a bummer. And I said, Pogačar's going to win this race. It sounds crazy because he's standing on the side of the road as the race is going up the road, but the crash happened so far up that by the time he got back on the bike, he was kind of at the back of the peloton. And do you know what's at the back of the peloton? A lot of cars, especially when they can't move up. So like him and UAE are immediately in the cars, and I say like he's going to win. You say if he wins, it's the best race of all time. And he went and he attacked on the Cipressa. I thought maybe he's going to play it a little because he was banged up. And this was not a soft crash. He was the skin suit was shredded. He attacks on the Cipressa. Vanderpool goes with him. He does set a record by quite a bit, like breaks his own record from last year by almost 15 seconds. Vanderpool and Pidcock are with him. Vanderpool doesn't look right. Partly people are like, oh, it was the crash. Well, partly because he rode the Cipressa 15 seconds than he did faster than he did last year. So he's probably in the spirit world. I don't know if you noticed when they were pulling through in between the Cipressa and the Poggio, Pogačar would pull through at around like 470 watts. And he was in the wheels at like 410 watts. So that means Vanderpool, and think about last year, they had top Ghana with him, but Ghana's a big guy. So Vanderpool's getting this big draft. He's away with Pidcock and Pogačar. Talk about bad drafts, like little guys, bad drafts. He must have just been like on the limit that whole time after the Cipressa. Pogačar doesn't let him rest, really, drops him right when they get the Poggio. Goes to the line. What were you thinking, Andrew? As they hit the Poggio, they go down the descent into the sprint. What are you thinking when this is going on?
It was Pogs to lose. I just didn't see a scenario where Tom Pidcock beats Pog.
I thought he was going to win that sprint. I thought for sure, but he's a fast guy. But you know what's weird about Pidcock is, do you remember this disputed Amstel Gold where he like allegedly won but didn't win? In 2021,
yes,
he sprinted from behind Van Aert. Same thing here. Like he's coming out of the wheel pocket to sprint, doesn't quite come around enough, loses the sprint. It's like, well, maybe just start from the front because that seems to work for Pogačar quite a bit. Because I think it's hard to build up the speed at the end of 300K. Like you don't really have a lot left there.
That's correct. And starting a sprint from the front typically not the strategy that's going to work out most of the time, I would say, unless you're a few percentage points better than the person sitting on your wheel. And I think that's what we saw in this event. The Wout of it all, also quite interesting because Wout, of course, launches off the chase group. Wout also caught up in that crash and managed to stay there in no man's land and crosses the line in third. What was really interesting to me, and this has kind of been rehashed ad infinitum everywhere else, but you know what? Let's go ahead and double down. Let's rehash this a few more times. Some of the things that were interesting to me in the aftermath of this race, we of course learn after the fact that, and granted, this information is coming from teams. Can we trust it? I don't know. This goes back to what I was just sharing about how I think some of these teams need to be a bit more strategic about the information they're sharing and also a bit less guarded and more human. I could go on about that all day, and you can contact me if you're a World Tour team and ready to be the best in the world at how you're telling your story. The point I'm making, Spencer, is Pog's bike was broken. His brake, allegedly, the rotor was rubbing against the frame, I think, is what the mechanic said.
Well, okay, so if you've ever been around Team UAE, they're not speaking English. That's not the language.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, if this was run through translation, because a rotor rubbing against a frame, that's like extreme.
Yeah, I don't know how you. I don't.
Yeah,
and I've seen this actual bike, because you may not know this, but Pog was actually riding the bike that Spencer rode and kind of broke in down in Tucson. So that's the actual bike that Pog was on coming off the Poggio. The other thing that comes out in the aftermath at the finish line, it's the Wout interviews. So we have Pog, he's won. This is it. He's never coming back. He's never, except for the Focaccia, trashes the region and its awful drivers subsequently following the race.
Wait, this is Wout van Aert?
Oh, I'm sorry, Pog.
Pog, wait, did he really say? Wait.
Yes, he did.
I thought this was, hold on, what did he say?
Yeah, this is real. Pog, in interviews following the race and in subsequent days, says, I'm never coming back here except for the Focaccia. That was immediately following winning the event. Subsequently, he said, because he's been commuting down on his bicycle to ride the Poggio, the Cipressa, repeatedly the last couple of years, and he just said, hey, the drivers in this region are awful. I never want to ride here again. Like, I'm done.
It's funny that he's calling it a region. It's like 30K from his house. It's like,
yeah.
He must just mean once you cross the border, it's game on, baby. Once you get into Italy.
Yeah, I guess that's what he's saying, and I would love to go there to eat the focaccia. I'm not sure about the writing.
It's pretty, maybe what he said, it's pretty compressed. Like, if you think about the race, there's no cars on the road, obviously. There was cars on the road today at Catalunya going the wrong way at the Peloton.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like the San Remo, it's really compressed. So if you're riding on the coastal roads, it's probably not amazing when you're trying to do that in full traffic.
Yeah, probably not amazing. I wanted to say though, Spencer,
I could buy that
on.
maybe it was rubbing on the rotor.
Okay, maybe it was rubbing. I bet
the brake.
I'm sure he had a bent rotor. He was getting the ting, 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 ting. Right. I mean, 100%. If any of these riders started this race and after 300K didn't have a rubbing rotor on inferior disc brake technology, I would find that to be staggering. The other thing that comes out, this is in the finish line interview. And to me, unfortunately, because I'm a family person, family's the most important thing in the world to me, other than my commitment to adult contemporary gravel and mid-pack finishes in 2026 and beyond, and my training in the Abandon Your Family series. Wout crosses the line. One of the first things he does, he FaceTimes with one of his babies, I think, or his kids, whatever. So the guy's like immediately interfacing with one of his children who just watched the race. And I was just thinking, this is what this guy has on his mind all the time when he's racing. And yeah, so I think that there's a lot of family on Wout's mind and staying alive, which those are good things to do when you're out there racing. The other thing in the post-race interview, and then all of these teams now do 12 to 15-minute mini docs following the events that could be vastly improved. In Wout's bit in the Visma mini documentary, he talks about how he broke his bike in the crash as well. And I'm thinking, we of course don't know what's the truth here. How broken was Wout's bike? And Pog just got back on, and the Pog in UAE behind the scenes footage, what really struck me, just how they were just ice cold in that UAE team car. It's like Pog has crashed like nothing. Nobody goes on the radio. They just wait. Pog gets on and says, yeah, I'm beat up, whatever. Like, I think I need a bike change. And that's it. And then they're just like, okay, go to the front.
But this is the second time. If you remember Strada last year, he crashes and they didn't give him the new bike.
Yes.
That's like kind of 101. Like, you always give someone a new bike. I don't know if you noticed when Wout crashed, he doesn't even try to get on his bike. He just gives it. He just waits, which he was further back. But remember, Mathieu Jorgensen was in the Pog group. He pulled over and got a new bike. So like Visma clearly is stressing new bike once you crash. That's probably the right, you would recommend that, but well, as you say, the winning strategy is the right strategy. Maybe just ride the broken bike to the finish. Who are we to say if that's a bad idea or not?
All right. So that's one of the things that struck me. The other thing that struck me, this may have been discussed somewhere else and I missed it. I don't think it has been. And I also don't know if the information I have in front of me is 100% accurate. I'm just going to tell you right now, Spencer, I did use AI to do some
Are these the results of the 2020 election?
I can't get into that. There's an ongoing investigation. What I pulled was, I was really curious, who did UAE have on the team every year between 2022 and 2026 at Milan San Remo? Right?
Which rider was on the team every year since 2022?
Pog, that's it.
Well, I mean, they definitely they have not had Brandon McNulty in the past, and Brandon McNulty was pretty much key to that victory. If he's not there, the problem they had 2 years ago, and they had this at the 2 or 3 years ago. They didn't have enough big bodies. It's just this obsession. It's like they went too light, and it's like on these 4 or 5% climbs, you need like big guys that are putting out big watts. And McNulty was that guy. You know, here's an interesting theory, or not theory, just theoretical for Wout van Aert. He waits for that new bike. Also, Wout van Aert loved the guy getting max draft. Did you think they were just sitting behind their team car for like half an hour? So that's also a little like, oh, wait for the bike change. What gives you the bike? The car. Oh, what's here to pace you? The car. Like, I do think there was a little bit of gamesmanship there. So they're ripping up the Cipressa behind the team car, motor pacing session. But if he doesn't crash, if he's in that front group, he probably tries to follow the attack and probably doesn't do as well because he's probably dropped and blows up like Vanderpool. I think he probably was helped by the fact that he came back only after the attack happened, and then he had the juice for that late attack. I mean, the guy damn near won the race. Like, a couple things go different up front. He's winning Milan-San Remo. The race he least needs to win because it's the only one he's won.
Right. And the Vanderpool injury, I'd like everybody, I'm getting my most of my information from these post-race interviews, which, as you mentioned, Spencer, yes, Vanderpool does English post-race interviews, but a lot of this is in foreign language podcasts that an AI has crawled, and then there's a news aggregator site that synthesizes and writes stories about these podcasts. I've seen a few with some of your words in them, and it seems that Vanderpool may have ripped his fingernail off. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's all like bandaged up today.
Yeah.
So it did kind of look like that.
Right. So in one of the post-race interview transcripts I read, he lost his fingernail in that wreck, which I don't know if anybody out there has ever lost a fingernail or toenail. And I'm not talking about your ultra running and your toenail falls off. That's a totally different deal than like it's ripped off of your body. That is an extremely painful injury. And you do kind of wonder, had he had that fingernail attached to his body, might things have turned out differently? And
well, if we want to play,
I know,
but like if Pogacar hadn't had his body thrown onto the ground at 40 miles an hour, he's probably riding better too.
Yes, that's certainly true. Going back to these rosters 2022 to 2026, okay, so not a lot of common denominators across the teams. As you noted, we get some bigger bodies, not necessarily broader, but they are taller. Like Itzhak Del Toro, something that really struck me in watching Milan San Remo, not surprisingly, we're back to like Skeletor era professional cyclists. These guys, they look like they're around 2 to 3% body fat to me. Like they look like they're at Tour de France level condition right now to me.
There's no like change in weight ever. Like when you see these guys in November, December, they're basically at their Tour de France weight.
Yes. And I will say it's noticeable, though, with a rider like Mathieu Vanderpool, and Wout, of course, had an abbreviated cross season with the injury that he had. But even Wout and Mathieu, they look noticeably leaner in a very short period of time between when cross ended Volcano time and now. These guys are freaking shrink wrapped.
That's the new thing. I mean, also riders are tiny now. Like, think about GC Contender 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Lance Armstrong, like 72 to 74 kilos probably, and now you got to be 64, 65 kilos is as much as you can be. I mean, let's just 64 kilos is, that's what Paul Seychelles is. 140 pounds. The guy's like 6 feet tall, you know? Like, you have to be so light
pretty
now.
Skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty skinny. All right, my final note on the 2022 edition, just watching Mohoric win that race, and it's interesting, we've talked about this in the past. Mohoric, he's kind of the Adam Hansen of his era, not the primetime host of To Catch a Predator, but Adam Hansen, the leader of the Professional Riders Association.
Was that really that guy's name, Adam Hansen?
I think
or
it
is.
It
Chris Hansen?
Oh, okay. You're right. Yeah. All right. The joke doesn't work.
To Catch a Predator. I haven't thought about that for a minute.
Nonetheless, Adam Hansen, technical innovator. He was going aero. He was using short cranks. He was doing everything possible for those marginal gains way before everyone else. Similarly, Mohoric in 2022 famously ran that stealth dropper post, and rewatching that race was wild because we had all the Galacticos there except for Jonas, and it's just unfathomable 4 years later that someone like Mohoric could pull that off. And his bars looked like he was riding a town bike, you know, like they're the bars were narrow, but they're not modern standard.
Well, that's like, if you saw Vanderpool today, he rides 42 centimeter bars. He looked like he was riding. It was crazy how big those bars looked. And then we'll get into it later. He was almost caught, so maybe he needs to shrink those bars. But yeah, San Remo, big win. Do you think this is the best win of Pogacar's career? Yay or nay? Not biggest, obviously, just best.
Yeah. Is it the best? I mean, I have recency bias. I think it might be his best victory ever. Although, I don't know, like, even as I say that, I'm thinking about that Tour of California win, right? In 2019, which I don't know if that's one of his best wins ever, but that's
that would be a hot take.
But that's when Pog arrives in my mind. It's like, whoa, this guy is different.
Well, here's my, I guess, pushback on that, because I thought about this too. Like,
okay,
you would say 2020 Tour de France best win, right? Like, you can't
that time trial, yeah,
but
that was pretty good.
No pressure, you know. Same thing with 2019 Tour of California, no pressure. Like, he finishes second to that tour. That's awesome. People are saying that's amazing. At this point, is so much pressure to win San Remo. So much pressure. Everyone's looking at him. He crashes white, like hits the ground hard, gets up and wins. I mean, that is unbelievable. Here, I'm looking at the Poggio descent to see where his time ranked. But almost as fast as Mohoric, by the way, with the dropper post. But that's not easy to do. I mean, I was on a ride with a former pro who was just like, he was like, you know, Remco, he's like, Remco crashes in that same place. He's calling for his mom. He's on the phone to his parents to come pick him up. And it's like, obviously that's a little embellished, but it's not many people that would just, there's that much pressure on you to win. It all goes wrong and you just like rally and make it happen on a course where it shouldn't happen. That's pretty impressive. Even more impressive than the Tour of California, perhaps.
Well, the funny thing also about the way he won, like if we set aside the crash, chasing back on, going to the front, his tactic really not that different than what people thought made no sense in past years, which is just going to the front on the Poggio and then attacking over and over and over to create separation.
But you know the only difference?
Tell me.
Just going faster.
Yes.
Yeah, let me try a little tweak here.
That? Yeah, I'll be even more provocative than that. Maybe that's what he needed to get to this point to reach this level. Maybe he needed to give it a swing, 4 times, doing that to figure out, hey, actually, I'm gonna have to kick it up a notch. I need Emerald Lagasse in here with a little cayenne to really spice up my focaccia.
Well, so you're pulling at threads of something really interesting here, actually, because it sounds absurd, but it is true. If he does not go through that progression of like, I'm going to climb because really it's just about cumulative timing between Cipressa and Poggio. You can't do a slow Cipressa, fast Poggio. You can't do a fast Cipressa, slow. You got to do both of them combined have to be the fastest of all time by a lot. And if he doesn't try to do it, he does it, he fails. He does it, he fails. He does it, he fails. He's like, I'm going to get really fast. I'm going to get faster, faster, faster. It's like, it's about the progression and pushing yourself and taking yourself to places you didn't think were possible. Like, let alone anyone else, but like he probably didn't think those times were possible 3 years ago. And he's pushed, because Lance always says, it's stuck in my head. He's like, I would do the Madone 520 watts average for the climb. And I knew the Tour was won right then before it started. But I'm always like, well, what would have happened if you didn't know? Like, what if that wasn't enough and you didn't know if it was enough? How good would you have been? Like just to keep pushing yourself. And that's what's super interesting about San Remo. Because you're right. Like, we all said this was stupid, wouldn't work. And Pogacar's like, watch how fast I can do this. And he's got himself to a place he wouldn't have gotten without the failures. Same thing with the other riders. Think about Pidcock. Pidcock and Wout, two of the best rides of their careers probably, to get second and third. And they wouldn't have arrived there without being pushed by Pogacar. So Pogacar is actually increasing the level of the sport, and he will eventually probably start losing because of it, because he's raising the level and would become a victim of it at a certain point.
And what you're describing also, imagine the frustration of everyone else who shows up year after year. Like, you're showing up in 2026, you're Tom Pidcock, you're Wout, you're MVDP, and you're chasing a ghost. You're chasing 2025 Pog, and 2026 Pog is absolutely nuking you. Like, you can't touch this. He's MC Hammer.
Yeah, well, it's like Remco winning the 2022 Volta with great climbing performances, is a better climber now than then, and is now like finishing third group on 1 week stage races with the same climb. It's like the level is ever increasing. I would say incredible win. I think the season sweep is on. I think he's going to win all 5 monuments now. It sounds ridiculous, but Flanders, he just has to not crash. Roubaix is a little tricky. Got to win Roubaix. And then once he wins Roubaix, Liège and Lombardia, that's paint by numbers for him. I mean, that's unbelievable that we're even talking about that.
Does he win Worlds again?
Probably. It's like the perfect course for him. So three straight Worlds, 3 straight Tours, 5 monuments in a season. That might be the best season of all time. We're heading.
Let me ask you this, Spencer, as America's preeminent cycling commentator of Slovenian descent, do you think there's a possibility that Pog would dedicate the World Championships on my birthday weekend to me?
It's definitely a chance. We can't say there's not a chance, especially since it's on your home continent. North America.
Yeah, I should be in contact with the embassy, see if we could work something out.
I was looking at prices to fly out. I'm definitely going, but I was like, ooh, maybe I just go by myself. It's like
maybe we get a cargo van and we cross the border and we go up through Maine.
That might be what we have to do. And then our car gets stolen in Montreal.
Yeah.
But anything else on San Remo before we move on?
I think that's it. I will say, if you haven't gone back and rewatched it in a while, and you probably can't get the whole thing, but there are clips of the finish out there, go back and watch 2022, because you're just never going to see that again. The sport's fundamentally changed. And also, I had forgotten how wild that descent was. Mohoric, like, skidding, almost going into a wall. It was bananas.
It's crazy, and I had not verified this. The record on the Poggio descent, so that you just described Mohoric pushing it to the limit, 6 seconds slower than the current KOM on Strava, held by James Warner.
Okay.
Like, set on just a day, January 15th. Like,
yeah.
Is that legitimate?
Well, I can tell you there's a thing called GPS drift that we've probably all experienced. I can think of a former colleague of mine during my time at Strava had a KOM on a very famous segment in the Bay Area, and there's like absolutely impossible. There was no way you could have done it. It was the Arguello Gate, and you know who you are, Ed Dorsey. I don't believe your time. I don't know if it's still held over time. GPS drift is where the satellite signal is such that there's kind of a false positive, and it looks like you've completed something before you actually have. And so there's an actual data record showing that you went faster than you did.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know what like the current state of that is, but that's just a fundamental problem with GPS technology, whatever device you're using or whatever platform you're using to parse that data.
So as Pogacar ascends to his, I don't know if you've seen his schedule, very weird schedule for the year. He's doing San Remo. He's only doing monuments. San Remo, Flanders, Roubaix, Liège. That's his spring. I've never seen a spring like that. So he's away. He's being pampered somewhere. Same with Mathieu Vanderpool shows up at E3, and an E3 must kind of, you do these, it's like a midweek criterium, and it's like slightly easier to win than the weekend one. That's what E3 must be like for these classic guys. You're like, I'm going to show up on the weekday one when people are busy, and I'm going to win. And Vanderpool's won it the last 2 years. He wins today solo. We had a slight break in recording. It was happening when we started. It's now finished. He attacks like 70K out, bridges up to a couple groups. 40K out, he attacks and holds off the group to win solo. Pretty normal, right? No, not normal, because he attacked. First of all, Tim van Dijk attacked on the Tyenberg, not Vanderpool. Vanderpool follows him, gets up to the chase group, and then drops everybody at 64K to go. As Johan Bernil pointed out, it took him 20K to catch the breakaway from there, which for Vanderpool is a long time. Drops the breakaway, and he was kind of dangling. Like dangling more than you'd think Vanderpool would. He's basically caught with a K to go. The guys who catch him, all-time bag fumble, can't figure out who's going to do any work. Vanderpool rides away for the win. Incredible win, like incredible. But it's clear he is not near the level of fitness he was last year at the same time. And for me, this tells us he's not at the level he needs. I do not think he can beat Pogacar at Flanders next week, because that's even a better course for Pogacar than San Remo. And he does not look like he's on the form he needs to beat Pogacar on that course.
It's almost as if you cannot race a full World Tour season, not take a break, race a season of
like
cyclocross
season, yeah,
and do the World Championships, and then go do a volcano camp, and then just go right into the next season with no recovery. At what is he, 29 now?
31.
He's getting long in the tooth. The recovery is coming more slowly.
The significance of that, you might think 31, that's younger than me, right? That's not a big deal. You look it up, there's almost no big race winners over the age of 30. The only one, basically, is Vanderpool last year. Nobody else over 30 wins anything. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Watching today, I know this sounds like rash and like I'm overreacting, and I know he won the race, but watching E3 today, I thought, does Vanderpool never win another monument? Because I don't think he wins one. I don't think he wins one this year. And then you're looking at a 32-year-old Mathieu Vanderpool next year trying to win a monument. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but the tap turns off on these things, and guys stop winning so fast.
You know what the tap is not turned off on, and I've been looking forward to talking to you about this, Spencer. We know Marcel Kittel, who I'm very interested on having on Choose the Hard Way. If you have a connection to him, please reach out to me at HardwayPod on Instagram. Let's talk. The Rockets now have Dylan Groenewegen, and he's putting some wins on the board for the Rockets. 3 wins thus far this year.
3 wins in his last 3 races.
Yeah, not bad. And I have to say, I thought that he was a bigger person like myself. It turns out he's only 5'10", 154 pounds. There must be some distortion of optics on seeing him on a streaming service, kind of like Cam Jones, where it looks like a giant person, but really it's just like another cyclist with some, I don't know, big delts or something. Like, what's going on?
Dylan he's all neck. So his neck reads huge.
Okay. But I mean, you're picking up the same visual, right? When you see this guy in a race, like, oh, this guy's got to be huge. It's like super broad, no neck.
I mean, it says the thing I'm more shocked about than his height is his weight. He's listed at 70 kilos, but he looks like he's like twice the size of everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So 154 pounds is what's coming up in his stats. He's looking bigger than that to me. Like he's put in some gym time. But watching him come back, and we'll see where we go from here, but he's winning in the kinds of races that I really love watching. Lots of echelons, just brutal, horrible weather. But it made me think about the rider that he tangled with in 2020, put into the barriers and into the ICU, Fabio Jakobsen, kind of where have their careers gone since then? Because these were future Kittles. They were future Cavendishes at the time. And here we are. The sport has, of course, changed substantially since 2020. But what's your view on how their careers have played out over time versus your expectations?
Well, sprinters are always a weird thing to have an expectation for because their careers, except I mean, like Mark Cavendish, you have to like remove him from your mind.
Right.
Because sprinters have really short careers. Like think about Fernando Gaviria. He seemed to be the next Cavendish.
Right.
But then his career comes and goes inside of the career of Mark Cavendish. It was like these careers go so fast. And it's like a time trialist. You're at the top for such a short amount of time, like 2 or 3 seasons. Then it's over. It's kind of like running backs. Don't invest a ton of money in a long-term contract with a sprinter because they probably won't last. I'm actually shocked to see Groenewegen. He won his first tour stage in 2017 and then won one in 2024. That's a big spread of years for a sprinter. But Jakobsen, so before this year, Groenewegen was seen as washed up. Like I watched him win a tour stage in 2024. So like that's not that long ago and it was impressive, but it was unexpected. Last year, he does not have a great year, is not really competing for tour stage wins when Jayco needs him to be. And then now he's amazing. But if you look at Fabio Jakobsen, Groenewegen's 32 as well. Fabio Jakobsen, 29, so 3 years younger. I remember it, so he has the crash in 2020, right? He won Volta España. The guy is unbelievable. He wins 1, 2, 3 stages with 2 runners-ups. Has a great year, and then 2022 was a big year for him, like a really good year. Wins a Tour de France stage. That's great. And I mean, I guess like right there, that's kind of a sprinter's career. Like you can't expect that much more. It's like you're winning 5 Vuelta stages, a Tour stage win, Kern-Brussels-Kern in the same year, European Road Championship. So like 2022 is a great year for Jakobsen. And then he's on the downslope, which does happen with these sprinters. He's also goes from Soudal Quickstep to DSM, Picnic Post NL, which is turning into a graveyard for riders' careers. They just don't seem to have the same pop when they get there. So, I mean, I would guess both of them. I would say Jakobsen, about what I expected, even more impressive when you consider he came back from a terrible, terrible crash. Groenewegen probably exceeding my expectations. Like I was shocked to see he's 32. He seems to be getting better, beating Jasper Philipsen on Wednesday.
That was unbelievable. Yeah.
Like Philipsen's 28. Like he's in sprinters years, like a generation younger. So yeah, I've been blown away by Groenewegen's year. Yeah, by his year so far and his ability to kind of turn things around since his best year by stats is 2019, which is a long time ago for a sprinter.
Yeah. To go back to San Remo for a moment, the red thread here is the Rockets. And the Rockets put out a post-race video about their San Remo. This is one you should go watch. It has elements that don't work. What does work, if you get maybe 8 or 9 minutes into it, it shows the team and how they took Lucas Kubish, who is one of their classics riders / sprinters, demi-sprinters, how they got him in a top 10 position going into the Cipressa, which I think is incredibly impressive for a team of this caliber. He's right there with Pog, with Vanderpool, and then he goes right out the back. But winning that positioning battle, to me, indicates that this team is definitely on a different level. And I'm curious to see what we're going to see out of them results-wise later in the year.
It also tells you how hard it is if you had to imagine starting the climb behind the peloton and having to catch back on.
Well,
and then pass everybody on the climb.
Well, that's what was wild about it is when you look at Lucas Kubish's face. I mean, this guy, you can tell, think about the hardest interval you've ever done. That's what he's doing just to be there at the beginning of that climb. And then, seeing the faces of everyone else, Vanderpool, Wout, Pog, they look fingers and nose compared to him. It's staggering.
Yeah, there's levels to this, people.
Yeah.
So what after today, E3, how do you feel about Vanderpool? Do you think he stands a chance at these spring classics? Or is it a lost cause? Nobody stands a chance.
Everyone stands a chance because of what we saw happen at San Remo. You never know who's going over the guardrail, so to speak. If we're just looking at the fitness levels of these riders, I would actually say something that is a bit of a wild card here is he seems to be okay. Pog had a hard wreck.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was not a flesh wound. He lost a substantial amount of skin. And then anybody out there listening to this, we know you're hardcore and you've left some skin on the pavement before. Just the risk of infection, the impact it has on your recovery. It's harder to sleep. You roll around in the middle of the night. The pain wakes you up. And those things don't tend to heal super fast. He's right back into competition. And we have every week of the year is a big one for him, except for cyclocross season, right?
I was thinking except the Tour de France. That's a paid vacation for Mathieu.
Yeah, totally. Piece of cake.
I can't. So he almost gets caught today. Doesn't get caught. So this guy, Per Strand Hognes on Visma, super, this guy's unbelievable. Gets second. Probably should have won. Probably would have won that sprint, which is why no one wanted to close the gap because they knew he would win. Jonas Abrahamsson on Uno X gets fifth. I kind of thought, if you remember, this guy kind of broke out, was at 2024 Tour de France. He didn't win a stage. He was just in a lot of breakaways. Nice little story. Got fat, got good, got fast. I thought, yeah, it's a nice story. He might win a Tour de France stage one day. And that's kind of what I thought his career might be. He does. He wins a Tour de France stage the following year. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm actually, these one-day races, I'm just going to get really good at those. He's 30 years old. He's not a young guy. And he gets a fifth today at E3, which is one of the biggest classics of the season. Quite the progression. Just to be yeah, classics, not really classics rider. I'll just ride real hard and do those. This is unbelievable what we're watching this guy do.
Yeah. And anyone who's been following his training, I mean, he's almost putting in enough volume, volcano time, and heat training to be in the Lifetime Grand Prix. He's almost there.
He's almost there.
Yeah.
Him and Dylan Johnson are almost at the same.
Yeah. I don't recall if we've discussed this, but that article came out recently. I believe it was Jim Cotton, he has some really fantastic stories about what's going on at the cutting edge of training. And his story was about how UAE has seen the biggest performance gains from actually reducing total volume. And when they have their riders doing zone 2, they're having them do high zone 2 versus the low end of the range. And then when they're doing intensity, they're doing even higher intensity than they were doing previously. And their volume, the typical week, I think the article said, yeah, they have some 25-hour weeks, but very few of them. And typically they're riding about 17 hours a week. And we have a friend in Fort Collins who I think was putting in more than 17 hours consistently on the trainer with a shoulder injury over the winter, riding with one arm.
Which is funny because he always told me, he's like, yeah, never train more than 10 hours a week, which I actually kind of agree with. I think most people ride too much. I think Visma's on. Wait, did you say Visma or UAE?
UAE.
UAE's onto something here. And they don't call it Zone 2 anymore. They call it LT1.
Right.
And it's basically the upper limit of Zone 2. But this guy, Jonas Abrahamsson, by the way, if you remember 2024 Tour of Flanders, I didn't know who he was at the time. That's when Wout crashes, is crying on the road. Mathieu Jorgensen says, don't worry, Wout. I got this. Wins the race. The guy he caught from the breakaway and who got second after getting caught, Jonas Vingegaard, 2024. We should have known then, but he'll get on Zwift. He went to do a training camp at altitude, didn't really leave the hotel, was just on Zwift the whole time for like 3 weeks. This guy's he'll do like 6 to 7 hour rides on Zwift at LT1, which for him is like 330 watts. Can you believe that? Just like,
yeah.
I'm just going to hold 330 for 6 hours inside. Like, that's ridiculous.
It's pretty bananas. The next episode I have coming out on Choose the Hard Way is with Steven Seiler. And if you are interested in learning more about modern training and polarized training, Steven Seiler is the academic who's done all of the exercise physiology research that is the basis of all modern training. And we had like a pretty lengthy discussion, Spencer, about how people like ourselves who are not professional athletes might want to approach training versus what you see when you're reading about people like Team UAE or Jonas Abrahamsen. Newsflash, you probably don't want to do the same thing as them because you have stresses in other areas of life that they're not dealing with, like making your breakfast.
Like their 17, like their 17 hours is not equivalent to your. Just because they're doing 17 hours doesn't mean you should do 17 hours.
Yeah, it's not. It's a really fascinating conversation. That's going to be dropping soon. You can find it everywhere you listen and watch. And with Jonas, I think one of the most remarkable aspects of his rise is his reverse puberty. And if you know his story, he had disordered eating.
Puberty.
Yeah, I mean, this is what he's talked about.
He didn't like become a baby.
It's very similar to if you watch the television show Mork on the planet Orson, people age in reverse, and that's actually what was happening to Jonas. And he became a man around 26, I think is what he said.
Basically, he got taller. Well, he disordered eating, was not eating. Started eating, got real tall, got real strong, got real fast. So, good for him.
Yeah, it's what I've found is whether I do an extremely high volume of training or reduced volume of training, I kind of stay this fast and I start getting sick. And anybody who's been following my incredible transformation and journey on social media, which you should definitely do at Hardway Pod, you will know, Spencer, that I've been sick for most of the last 3 months. One of our listeners shot me a note and they said, hey, do you think it's possible that this is because of the abandon your family Triple Crown?
Could be.
It might be. I think that it's actually other factors outside of training that have caused the implosion. I'm trying to find my footing again, but I want to promise you I'll be back.
I trust that you'll be back. And I know it's out of fashion to say that weather makes you sick. People think that's just like something crazy Russian grandmas say. I find with me personally, this is a personal anecdote, when I am in a consistently cold, wet environment, say the British Islands, I do develop chest infections more, and I find it harder to fight them off than when I am in a dry, doesn't even need to be warm. Like I was up at Winter Park last week, 35 degrees and sunny and dry, and I felt great. Yeah, I felt great. But if it's like just constantly damp, and I just can get really bad chest infections, like when you were in the atmospheric storm in the Bay Area, that type of riding, I guess you're getting road spray from the stuff on the ground. I find I can get quite sick, and it's harder for me to fight that than if I'm in a dry, maybe warm environment. Also, something about Jonas Abrahamsen, we should say, is he is a great example of, let's say, well, why doesn't everyone train a lot and become very good? Just find out what Pogacar's doing, do what he does. You're as fast as Pogacar. What's the big deal here? Because bodies physically break down at a certain point, and most people, 99% of pro cyclists can't train this much and be good. The genetic freaks can't. So like Jonas Abrahamsen can just train a lot and absorb the training and become better. Most people, if they tried to train that much, would just get worse and get sick and be injured. And the real genetic freaks can train a lot. That's like that's the most important thing in pro cycling. Can you train really hard at high volume? If you can't, you're going to find it hard to be a pro cyclist. But before we go, Andrew, Volta Catalunya, I don't know if you saw this, really tough summit finish today. Jonas Vingegaard wins, dusts everybody. Philly Spell second, 51 seconds back. Florian Lipowitz, 101, and then his teammate, his little domestique that could, Remco Evenepoel, 138 back. nice to see a guy like that getting a decent result, making a name for himself. But stage 3, if people didn't see, Remco Evenepoel's Red Bull team sets up a perfect split of the peloton and the crosswinds. And then Remco says, it's just like if you go to the park with your dog or something and the leash isn't on and they see a ball, he just like jets out of the peloton. It looks impressive. It is impressive. The problem is he's followed by Vingegaard. So he's gaining nothing. He's actually helping Jonas because he's loading his own body and then letting Jonas ride at an easier pace on his wheel, which you shouldn't do if you're in a stage race. And he blows up the group. So his team can't ride. Jonas's team can't ride. UAE catches back on. It negates the entire thing they've done. And he wastes a bunch of energy. And then on top of that, he's on his limit, not really looking around, crashes in the final roundabout, and doesn't even get to contest the stage. I think that summed up a lot of that Remco doesn't quite understand the concept of stage racing in one move. And then it's this, I don't know how to say it other than the man just cannot climb at a competitive rate anymore. It's like the 7th straight stage race we've seen. First big, tough mountain stage, you just can't hold the pace of the others. That's going to be a problem in most stage races, I imagine. What are you thinking if you're Red Bull? You paid a lot of money for this guy. He's like not your best GC rider. What do you do from here?
We know that their stated plan for the Tour de France was dual leadership, right? We have Florian Lipowitz. We have Remco Evenepoel. The road will decide, and then what happens. So it's let the road decide. I'm not in the daily newsletter game doing post-race analysis as you are, Spencer. Had I written a newsletter about that stage, I think it would have been called The Road Decided.
The road has decided.
The road decided. And I've seen some Zapruder film analysis ex post facto. It didn't seem to me that anyone identified an actual pothole on that road.
Yeah, so he says, I make fun of Remco a lot. I want to extend him some grace because I myself have been at 185 beats per minute and just straight up crashed on nothing.
Totally. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I've been there, buddy. But so a journalist went and looked at the road and there was nothing there, basically.
Yeah. It doesn't take much, though. Again, I was kind of seeing wide shots, pausing.
Well, you can even
YouTube
imagine
footage. It just like any declivity in the surface, whatever. If you're moving your hands at that moment, we've all had it happen. It's actually terrifying, and it could have been a lot worse, probably. Although I will say, it was very bad.
It also sums up when you do an attack like that, you're adding variables. So you're not necessarily causing a crash, but you're creating a situation where you could crash. I kind of wonder if he looked up and this feeling. You're like, oh, there's a roundabout. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like in that surprise, you can crash. Like just anything that throws you off can bring you down.
Yeah. And Spencer, as you know, a lot of people that we interact with, it seems like Jonas is not a real popular personality is probably how I would put it. It seems like a lot of fans find him to not be a very likable person. My point of view is, hey, styles make fights. You need heels, you need heroes, whatever. That's great. Like everybody can't be someone that you like in the sport. And also, we know almost nothing about the athletes in our sport. There's so little direct access to these athletes. Who knows? Like you're seeing these clips of them, as you noted, Spencer, after they've been pegged at 185, 190 beats per minute, and then they finish and someone sticks a microphone in their face after they've been doing this for 5 or 6 hours like zoo animals. And what really struck me about this Remco incident, given how little I perceive people like Jonas, is it made him look like a really affable, likable person relative to Remco. And in the post-race interview, they're asking Jonas about, man, just Remco just reminds me of every every Masters rider I would run into in Southern California.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
just making it miserable for everybody.
yeah, just like
yelling
being at the
people.
Rose Bowl, somebody's going to put you into a post like, oh, there's a rollerblader, like I'm leaning into you, like you're going down, just that kind of behavior, waving your arm around, screaming at people. And they ask
he's
Jonas.
Like screaming at Jonas when he's off the front. Like, he's not going to pull through. Why would you even ask him?
Right. And then they asked Jonas afterwards, and he said, well, I don't think he liked it, but hey, that's cycling, man. Like, but it just showed you just like, okay, like level of neuroticism here is vastly different. And one of these kids is doing his own thing, and one of them has won the Tour de France
multiple times. I mean, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but the same few riders win all the races. And I think this kind of showed us why. It's not necessarily the physical. Also, even all these guys have been going for bonus seconds. They can't sit still. Like kids in class that can't sit still. Jonas hasn't been doing that. He's been sitting back. So while their power numbers maybe look comparable on day 1, by day 5, Jonas has done a lot less work than everybody else. And then he's dropping them on the climb. And this is a good reminder of he might just, he's very talented, obviously, and very good physically, but these little things add up. And that is usually what makes the difference in these stage races. Also, Jonas, I feel like he kind of had Remco where he wanted. Like,
yeah,
he gets on the wheel, so there's no risk. And then he's pulling through a little bit, but just enough to keep Remco pulling. But Remco's pulling more and getting more and more and more and more upset. And then can you imagine what would have happened when Jonas sprints around him for the stage win? He would have imploded in anger. And like, I felt like Jonas knew what he was doing and was almost like needling him with these moves. But nothing showed you a good stage racer versus a poor stage racer than that move right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that exact scenario just made me think, this is going down. Remco's waving his arm around. He's screaming at this guy. Well, you're going to have a 45-plus Amgen P13 rider in the parking lot waiting for you with a 2x4 after the Rose Bowl ride. Like, that's what's going down in this scenario.
I thought today Jonas should have got on his wheel or got in front of him and made him pull through on the climb. What's wrong? What's wrong, Remco? Not feeling so strong now? But that's why Jonas is so good, because is not taking any of this personal, right? It's all rolling off his back. It's all business. Like, oh, stage 5, I'll just drop everybody and win. Like, that's a unique talent, a unique skill, really. It's like something you learn. He's not flustered by this, doesn't get angry, and just, he's a killer. He's a killer. But, I mean, God, Red Bull, it is a tough situation. They spent a lot of money on this. Like, it's a big transfer fee, big contract, and he's not the best GC rider on the team. That's going to cause some problems, I feel like.
Here's what I would do. And I want to note also, what was Paris-Nice 3 weeks ago? I can't remember.
It must have been 2 weeks ago.
Okay, 2 weeks ago. Started Paris-Nice. What's everybody saying about Jonas? He's soft. He's lost his edge. He's complaining about the rain. He's complaining about the roads. Here we are 2 weeks later. And hey, look, this guy is the most relaxed person out there. He's toying with Remco. But what do you do with Remco if you're Red Bull? I'm going to throw something out there that's going to seem outlandish, Spencer, but I could see this happening. I see the Rockets buying out this contract.
I don't know if there's enough Rocket money.
I think the Rockets could get their hands on something, it's whatever Mistral's competitor is. There's some AI company out there that wants to write a blank check and take the Rockets to the Tour de France GC podium. I don't know who it is, but it's out there right now. And that's what I see happening. And that's how they get rid of him. And then it's like, who do they buy?
So I'm looking up biggest companies in Belgium. You want to guess the biggest one? It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt your pride, by the way.
Powell's Saucon.
Anheuser-Busch.
Okay.
InBev, buddy. Our Missouri company.
They've got a distributorship to have a Kermesse at, I'm sure.
That burns me. That both Anheuser-Busch and Coors, 2 great American breweries owned by foreign companies. How did we let that happen?
Was that Interbrew?
So InBev owns Anheuser-Busch, and then Molson owns Coors. Canadian company. Man, we have no pride anymore. And then we have some mining companies. But yeah, I think we get Anheuser-Busch to come in. A little InBev money. They could maybe fund the Rockets and get Remco. I think he gets paid a lot of money, like 8 million euros a year. So,
yeah.
I mean, he's a very good rider, very good one-day rider. But I would say, I mean, this is going to sound harsh. If you're one of these teams, like let's say Ineos, who maybe was in the bidding and did not end up with the prize, that might have been the real prize, because this is a tough situation. When you have a guy that came over to be your leader and he is a big personality and a big star, it's hard not to be the leader, if that makes sense.
Yeah. One thing he's never doing is he's never riding for another rider in his entire career. So somebody better come with a big check that wants, I don't know, 4th to 6th place GC results at Grand Tours.
We're not like, obviously those are very hard results to get.
Yeah, it's better than I can do. Look at my Tour de Tucson time. I didn't even get the blue ribbon.
I'm now
wondering, crushing to me when I crossed the line, and somebody next to me got whatever the sub 430 ribbon was or medal, and they gave me the other. They gave me the other color. I was like, well, hold on, why don't I get that? Oh no. That's for people who finished under in 430. But you just gave it to him. I didn't want to cheat, but it burned me. I didn't even realize that there were these categories. I should have known.
I hung it up in my garage. I look at it every day and I think, oh wow, look at that blue. but do we think there was a different sub 4 hour ribbon?
I don't know.
Probably.
One way to find out.
I know.
One way to find out.
I think Tour of Scottsdale is this weekend.
It is.
We could be late entries. Like if we leave right now, we could make it perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to figure this out, because that is going to be, I mean, really the only thing you can do is he's going to the Ardennes. He's probably going to be good at those. And then you circle the Dauphiné and say, you got to win the Dauphiné. Because if you don't, the questions start to get tough. And we were all ragging on Jonas. I was leading the brigade. I had the pitchfork in hand. I was going to the Jonas castle, ready to burn it to the ground. And guess what? The guy's still the second best stage racer in the world. He's very good. Great rider, 29 years old, sub 30. And the problem is, like, the guys who win a lot, and they win with ease. Think about Del Toro. He's an emerging version of this, where he just goes to stage races, except the Giro that he just absolutely pissed away. He goes to stage races and just wins. And it's no drama. I'm just going to win. Oh, I got to do this to win. I'm going to do it. It sounds simple. It sounds like dad strategy, but that's kind of how bike racing works. The same guys are able to win because they're operating at a different neural level than everybody else.
Yeah, Spencer, unfortunately, I've just received a message that my children have called my wife to tell her that they tried to call me, and I told them, hey, I'm recording. I'm not picking up the phone. But I made sure they were well fed before I got on the pod. As you know, we had a little disruption earlier and had to come back to it. It seems that they need their next tranche of 150 grams of carb per hour. All we do is slurry here. It is a day-old baguette croissant combination. Before we go, though, a data point I wanted to leave with you, which this was in another piece of coverage, and Jay Vine has crashed 22 times in the past 5 years.
Where'd you get that number?
That's according to Pro Cycling Stats, but it's from a third-party source.
Okay.
Quoting Pro Cycling Stats. So I have not, trust but verify. But that's a lot of crashes.
Right. It sounds about right, because he hit a kangaroo, broke his wrist.
I mean,
at Tour Down Under.
How many people can say that, though? Worth the price of admission.
Came back and then promptly crashed out of the Volta Catalunya. So we feel for you, Jay Vine. Jay Vine crashes Pro Cycling Stats. I didn't know they kept track of that.
Yeah.
Someone, interesting injury history for Jay Vine. Somebody said that Visma signed a rider because they don't crash very much. And then somebody else that was smart pointed out, well, it's not necessarily good, because that means where you don't crash when you're off the back, when you're not in the race. So not like a bulletproof metric. But we'll let you get back to what did the kids call on? Do they have a cell phone in there in this,
no.
in this safe room?
We have a landline, Spencer.
A landline. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Love a landline.
Yeah. Well, we don't have cell coverage where I live, so you have to have a landline in case of an emergency if you want to contact EMS. And that's also why we have a permanent generator.
Wow. Nice. That's mid-coast living. There was a landline in a hotel I was in with my daughter. She was 2. And she was saying, what is that? Does that have a name? What is that thing? It's a phone. What are you talking about? It's the phone. But good luck, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. And we will be back, I guess, next week, right before the Tour of Flanders. So we'll hit that running.